There are many things that have contributed to the Canadian history. Communities is one of them, making Canada the country it is now. Firstly, I will be talking about communities in Canada, what they were and how they interacted in Canada, and interactions that occurred internationally. The Aboriginal people are one of the communities in Canada. They have always been discriminated against and have been fighting for their rights. An example of this would be the 1969 White Paper Proposal, which was officially known as the Statement of the Government of Canada on Indian Policy. The White Paper Proposal was made in 1969 by Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and his Minister of Indian Affairs, Jean Chrétien. The policy was that the White Paper would get rid of the Indian Act, which the federal government viewed as discriminatory. They wanted to abolish the legal relationship between Aboriginal people and the Canadian government in favor of equality. However, Trudeau and Chrétien saw the White Paper as a method in which they could eliminate the rising cost of managing the Indian affairs and treaty responsibilities. Aboriginal people were facing a lot of problems, but the Canadian government couldn't ignore them due to the strong public attention given to the civil rights movement. Canadian Aboriginals faced higher than average rates of infant mortality and poverty. At meetings, there was strong opposition from Aboriginal leaders, expressed their concerns by saying that their treaties and special rights had never been recognized in the first place. So the White Paper was deserted in 1970, but in the year of 1973, the Supreme Court of Canada finalized abolishing of the White Paper and recognizing Aboriginal title in Canadian law. Another community that was discriminated against was Africans. Africville was an African Canadian village found in north of Halifax, founded in the mid 18th century. The citizens of Africville ran fishing businesses from Bedford Basin, selling what they caught locally and in the cities of Halifax. Other citizens ran farms and small stores towards the end of the 19th century. The city of Halifax gathered taxes in Africville but didn't give any services such as paved roads, running water, or sewer maintenance. The city of Halifax did many undesirable things, from paving a railroad through the village, placing a fertilizer plant, slaughterhouses, a Rockhead prison, infectious disease hospital, and more unpleasant things. But in the 1950s, Halifax took it too far and built an open pit dump in Africville. The schools were shut down in 1953 in an attempt to desegregate its education system. Many black students had to go to school with white students and were continuously discriminated against. Since the city of Halifax Council wanted to turn the land of Africville into an industrial land, many residents were relocated. But after the relocation, residents created the Africville Action Committee in order to seek redress and to keep the community alive. The city of Halifax destroyed the once flourishing seaside community in the 1960s, which many people said was an act of racism. Since we are talking about communities in Canada and interactions internationally, we can talk about Newfoundland and Labrador becoming a part of Canada, since it is now a community of Canada. Canada eagerly wanted to bring Newfoundland and Labrador into Confederation out of fear of the United States. They thought the United States, having a large military presence there, would one day take all of possession of the territory. In the year of 1949, on March 31st, Newfoundland and Labrador became Canada's 10th province, and Smallwood became the first premier. A referendum took place on June 3rd, 1948. The citizens of the country had three choices: Confederation, self-government, and commission rule. Confederation and self-government had a split of 85% of the vote, with self-government leading with 4 points. But in the end, Confederation won. That is how Newfoundland and Labrador became part of Confederation. Another thing that was important in connecting communities in Canada was the first subway in Canada. In the first decade of the 20th century, Canada saw a huge population growth in Toronto. The city's transportation system had difficulty in handling this growth, largely due to the difficulties in dealing with the Toronto Railway Company. The TRC was a private firm. They had a contract with the city for 30 years, starting from 1891. Since it was coming to its final decade, the city began discussions on methods of working around the company and new methods to meet the needs of the increasing population. On January 1st, 1946, voters were asked if they were in support of the Toronto Transportation Commission continuing with the proposed quick travel framework, given the domain government accepting one-fifth of the taken toll and given that the taken toll of the ratepayers is forced to such sums as the city committee may agree to for the substitution and change of the city administration. Despite the citizens agreeing, there was no federal funding commitment. The construction for Queen Street was postponed, focusing on Yonge Subway. The estimated cost for this project was 28.9 million and adding 3.5 million for the trains. Because of the material shortage because of the post-war, the process of the project was delayed. The construction officially began on September 8, 1949, and the subway officially opened on March 30th, 1954. The subway connected people and it made it easier to get around the community without wasting too much time in traffic. This is all for this episode of Conflict, Cooperation, and Communities. We will see you in the next episode. Hope you have a great day.